everyone. Thanks so much for coming. My name is Jen Person. I'm a developer advocate at Google for the Firebase team. And I am so thrilled for you to be a part of this, my first talk as a Googler. Thank you. Thank you so much. I really can't think of a better place to do it. I hope you've had as much fun as I have. I've seen some really great talks and some really awesome trainings and met some of you, and I hope to meet some more of you. So thanks so much for being here. So what I want to talk to you about today is incorporating Firebase into your existing app. So what I found is talking to other developers at conferences, you may like the idea of incorporating the Firebase database or storage or authentication, but a lot of developers already have an existing app that has all of those things in it, so they think Firebase isn't for them. But I'm here to tell you that there are some features that are still very useful for incorporating your app, especially to grow your user base. So I'm going to talk about two main topics. One is app quality and another is app growth. I find that when deciding what to talk about, these things really went hand in hand for me because a lot of what makes an app grow has to include a quality app. People aren't going to be sharing their app with their friends and telling them about it if it's crashing. So I'll briefly spend a little time talking about the Firebase features that can help with your app's performance and your app quality, and then I'll talk about some of our app growth options. So, according to a study of 1- and 2-star reviews, nearly half of the complaints are related to problems developers can address. So crashes and performance, exactly what I was talking about. And since we all tend to want to be informed consumers, we tend to look at our reviews first. I don't know about you, but I have not bought anything for the past, let's say, 5 years without looking at the reviews first. So definitely poor reviews can curb your app's growth. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the app I'm going to use as a sample to incorporate Firebase. And it's called Friendly Translate. And if you've done any of our code labs before, you know that we love things that are friendly. It uses the Google Cloud Translation API to translate from a couple different languages. And it doesn't use Firebase, at least not yet. So I'll show you Friendly Translate. And here it is. So, simple interface, looks a little bit like another Translate app that you may know. Has some languages to choose from. And I am glad you are here. Now you're going to see how bad I am at texting on a small screen. But yeah, that's all there is to my app. So even though I have this totally awesome Translate app, it is certainly possible it can have some not so great reviews. So what do I do if I'm getting reviews like these in the App Store or the Google Play Store? These really aren't unlike reviews you may have seen for other apps before. I even did like a very quick search of the App Store and found one that sounds like it could even pertain to something like this. Like reading other reviews, I realized that it's not just me. It's been at least a month or so since I tried using the app on my iPad, but I couldn't because it crashed instantly. It's worked for me in the past. That was a while ago. Again, definitely not something you would want potential users to be reading. So sometimes reviews will tell you exactly what's going on, but you may not know why users dislike your app. So Firebase has a bunch of features to help. I'm going to take a look at each one of those reviews I just showed you, and then show you how a Firebase feature can help you address that issue and thus help you grow your user base. Let's look at this one, always crashing. We see these ones a lot, and they can have a huge effect on how your app is received. And so even though I know what the problem is, this really doesn't help narrow it down. If I have some sort of crash that I didn't catch in my initial testing, it can be tough to do so if I haven't already found it. So Firebase provides a couple different resources for reporting and prioritizing crashes that are happening in your app. So Firebase crash reporting has been around for a while, and Firebase developers like it. And I imagine you've heard that Google recently acquired Fabric, which provides Crashlytics, which is another option for crash reporting. In fact, if you go to the Firebase console right now and you haven't registered any crashes yet, this is the screen that you'll see. And it's pretty clear from what's written that Firebase is advocating to use Crashlytics if you haven't used one already. It's even like a slightly different color. But there are still reasons you may want to use one or the other. No matter which option you choose, just know that Firebase will help developers migrate easily to the final solution that combines the best of both of these. If you're developing an Android app, in fact, you could just incorporate both. On iOS, you do have to choose. So, while there are good reasons for both of them, I wanted to try out Crashlytics, so that's what I'm going to show you today for my crash reporter. Crashlytics is the world's fastest crash reporter. I'll even show you what that looks like. It combines similar issues and shows priority to help you find and resolve problems quickly. And you can minimize the impact of your crashes for your users by focusing on the ones that are impacting the most of them. And it's available on iOS and Android. Now, Crashlytics will give me deep insights into what's crashing in my app, and it'll even send me email notifications, which I can set up what kind of notifications I want to get. Here we can see already there's been some sort of crash in Friendly Translate. So let's take a look at just how fast Crashlytics reports on crashes. I happen to know that there is a crash in my app, and I'm going to make a crash for you right now, and we'll take a look at Crashlytics shortly after. Okay, so here I have my app. Change my language. Oh, here we go. Yes, Friendly Translate crashed. So after a moment, we'll be able to see that in the console. And we have our crash reported. So one more go. So it really is that fast. You can really find out what's going on in your app in real time. And because it aggregates those different crashes, you can see what those trends are. Now, what about a review like this one? The app worked quickly for me on my new device and my fast office Wi-Fi. This is something that you may have heard before. But depending on where your users are located or what kind of devices they're using, they might not have that same experience. And certainly, you can try to test in several different scenarios, but you will not necessarily catch very specific issues that way. So I can monitor and address such performance issues using Firebase Performance Monitoring, and it gives you actionable insights into your app's performance from your user's point of view. And it was released in beta at I/O this year. Performance monitoring can tell us how the app performs from your user's perspective, and it runs in the production version of your app with minimal overhead. So you can rest assured that it's not bogging down your app in the process of trying to improve it. So performance monitoring offers a couple of features right out of the box. Automatic tracing, and you can create custom traces, and also automatic HTTP and HTTPS metrics. So a trace is a report for a period of time that is going to have a defined beginning and end. And there are some that are done automatically, like a cold app start, how long your app is in the foreground, and how long it's in the background. HTTP and HTTPS traffic metrics include response time, which is going to be from the moment of invocation to the final byte that's received, payload size in bytes, and success rate. So it's going to take a look at your status codes, like 200 types being successful and 500 type errors, and it's going to help you narrow down if there's a specific server or network issue that's causing that. It also includes URL pattern globbing. So again, you're sort of aggregating the different URLs so that all of these will be considered the same structure, so that it gives you an aggregated view of how your APIs are performing. And the transaction metrics it includes are app version, device, country, OS level, carrier, and radio, which I'll show you what that looks like in the console. Now this is a sample of an app that is live and uses Firebase performance monitoring. And what I want to briefly show you, besides the traces, including the default and the custom traces, is that deep insight you can get into network requests. So here, if I want to find out more about what kind of response time I'm getting, I can have it, again, broken down by how long each carrier is taken, and the app version, and what device it's on, to really narrow down if I'm having some trend in an issue. Sometimes it can be just a single carrier that's causing it, and this really helps you narrow it down. Okay, so sometimes user feedback is not particularly helpful. Very few of your users are going to be leaving that feedback. So there's the possibility that they're not even reporting the issues that they're having, they're just uninstalling your app. So how can we find out more about what the users like and don't like about our app? That's where Google Analytics for Firebase comes in. And what I love about Google Analytics for Firebase is that it's free and unlimited. So you have this out-of-the-box solution when you incorporate Firebase into your app that gives you reporting on up to 500 distinct events, and you can have custom events with custom parameters, and you can view all of that data, including how it connects up to other Firebase features. For instance, if you use crash reporting, you can incorporate that into your analytics. Take a look at your dynamic links performance, notifications, in-app purchase data, and see how your campaigns are performing. Next feature I want to talk about is remote config. This is another feature that works well with analytics to really help you narrow down what people may really enjoy about your app, what they may like and not like about it, and helps you give a custom experience to your users. So remote config lets you change the behavior and appearance of your app without pushing an update. So you don't have to depend on your users to do so, because if they're anything like me, there's at least 12 updates that need to be done, and especially if you have something important like a crash that you want to resolve by removing some feature, you don't want to have to wait for them to update it. You can use the Firebase console to override default values, so you can have default values for different scenarios, including user properties that you can set up, app versions, operating systems, audiences that you define in Firebase Analytics. It's really up to you to how you want to segment and customize how you send out that different configuration. So for instance, you could change your app's color theme to match a seasonal promotion, or change the start date of the sale. Or I can use remote config to change what the default language is going to be. On the one hand, it's possible that in a certain country, they may want to start with whatever language is native to that area. Or maybe a lot of people using that app in that area are visiting, and they want to translate something into that language. So depending on where somebody lives, you may want to have a different default language. So here I can use remote config to change what the default language is, and use the region where the device is located to decide which language is shown as being the original one. Come up and check it out later, because I'm pretty excited about that one, and I'll show it to you. Okay, so according to a study by Localytics in 2016, an average of 23% of users abandon an app after just one use. So those few first moments that a user interacts with an app are critical, and you don't want to become part of those statistics. So Firebase provides some great tools to make the user's first experience as easy and enjoyable as possible. And the ones I want to talk to you about a little bit are app invites and dynamic links. Also, to go with app invites and dynamic links, 82% of Americans ask for recommendations from friends and family. And that's even higher, 92%, for 18 to 34-year-olds, which is why these features are so powerful. So app invites allow you to share referral codes or content via SMS or email. And it really is an out-of-the-box solution that enables you to send invites from your actual users to their friends, and who can give better recommendations than people who already enjoy your app. And with just a few lines of code, you can have that set up to send out those invites. And this can include dynamic links. So rather than just going to, let's say, the default page in your app, If there's some specific content that that user would be most interested in, you can have a link that sends them there and even survives the install process. So let's say you've fixed your performance issues, you've resolved your crashes, and you've made it a much better experience. How do you re-engage those users that haven't touched your app in a while? Firebase Cloud Messaging makes it super easy. So Google Cloud Messaging sends out so many messages every day, and they are nearly instant and very reliable. Firebase Cloud Messaging makes it really easy to send out messages that are directed to specific groups rather than just spamming messages to all of your users. Let's say that this particular user, in this case me, is not very interested in using the app anymore because every time I try to pick my favorite language, it crashes. But now that crash has been resolved, I can send a message to a specific group. It can be based on properties or events, and I can just say, come back to friendly translate. And there we are, come back to friendly translate. It invites me to come back, and it doesn't have to be a simple message like that. It can include custom links, get you right to the place where you want them to be in your app. Just a simple example. So again, you can use Firebase Cloud Messaging to invite users to drive user engagement, invite them back to use your app. You can send messages all the way down to a single device, groups of devices. You can have topics that they're subscribed to. There are endless possibilities to re-engage your users, and again, without spamming them, by making it simple for you to choose specifically who that notification pertains to. There we go. And there's one last demo that I wanted to show you that incorporates analytics using Cloud Functions for Firebase, because I am a huge fan of Cloud Functions for Firebase. If any of you have seen my videos, you know I love to talk about them, and I couldn't help but include an example. So I just want to briefly show you some code with how you can incorporate analytics events to respond to things your users do to re-engage them with your app. So what I've done here is create an event that is triggered when the app is removed. And again, this occurs in the server side and not in your user's app. And so in order to have this event trigger, just make sure that if you're using analytics events triggers for Cloud Functions for Firebase, it has to be a conversion event. So you may have to go into the console and make sure it's triggered as a conversion event. So if an Android user removes the app, you can log that event, or it is logged automatically, and you can send them an email, and you can invite them back to use your app. Now, in this case, I wrote out verbatim, I wrote out specifically for each language. You could even incorporate the Translate API here as well if you wanted to make sure that you are translating custom to whatever location the user is at, what language they would be using. But in this case, I figured it may make sense to hard code something, because if some sort of faulty translation is the reason that they stop using your app, you wouldn't want to incorporate that here as well. You'd want to make sure that everything was translated in a way that looked right to them. And in this case, I don't speak all these languages, so they might actually not be the best translations. So again, using the sending them an email, logging the event. That way, anytime a user decides to leave my app, I can invite them back, and I can even give them some sort of discount or motivation to come back. All right, so after making some great changes to my app, seems like people like it a lot more now. 5 stars would translate again, and it translates so fast and so easy to use and fun. So these are all features that you can incorporate into your app, even if it's already up and running, and that's actually the best time to use them, to really get your idea out there. I mean, you've already spent the time to build something and come up with a great idea. Why not really make sure that the users who would enjoy it are actually getting to see it? So here's a summary of the features that I added. Crashlytics, performance monitoring, remote config, Firebase Cloud Messaging, app invites and dynamic links, and because I can't help myself but talk about Cloud Functions, I also included a brief example of using Cloud Functions for Firebase with Node Mailer to mail out messages whenever a user on Android removes the app from their phone. So, thank you all so much for coming, and I hope you are having a great time here at GDD Europe, and I hope to see you next year. I'm Jen Person. I will be upstairs for office hours if anyone has any additional questions about these features or anything else Firebase related. Thank you.